I always thought my life was simple, quiet shifts at the auto shop, cheap takeout dinners, and an empty apartment that never asked anything of me. Nothing unpredictable, nothing messy. But one phone call shattered all of that. I had just kicked off my boots when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost let it ring out until a frantic woman's voice exploded through the speaker. "Miss Evelyn Carter, your daughter has been left here for 2 hours. You need to pick her up immediately." I froze. "My daughter?" I whispered. "I don't have kids. I'm single." Her tone sharpened. "If you don't come now, we'll have to call the police for child neglect." My heart slammed against my ribs, because something deep inside me whispered that this wasn't a mistake. And the moment I stepped into that school, nothing about my life would ever be the same again. The moment the call ended, I just stood there, staring at my phone like it had spoken in another language. My hands were trembling not from fear but from disbelief so sharp it felt physical. I didn't move until the silence of my apartment grew so heavy it squeezed my lungs. A daughter? My daughter? What kind of cosmic joke was this? I grabbed my jacket and sprinted down the stairs, nearly tripping over my own feet. The cold Seattle air slapped me across the face the second I pushed open the building door, but it wasn't enough to clear the dread forming inside me. As I fumbled with my car keys, the same questions reeled over and over. Who would use my name? Why my phone number? Why my address? And most terrifying of all, why did a child somewhere out there believe I was her mother? I sped through traffic, ignoring the glare of headlights and the honking horns behind me. My heart pounded so violently I could hear it echo in my ears. The world outside blurred into streaks of gray and orange, but inside my mind everything was painfully sharp. I replayed the woman's voice again and again. "Your daughter has been left here for 2 hours. We're calling the police." Every word sliced deeper. By the time I pulled into the nearly empty parking lot of Pinebrook Elementary, my palms were sweaty against the steering wheel. The school building loomed silently under the dim streetlights, looking nothing like the place where a mystery child should be waiting for me. I stepped out of the car, my breath visible in the cold air. My legs felt heavy as I walked toward the entrance. With each step, something inside me twisted tighter. Was this identity theft? A sick prank? A trap? Or something else entirely? The front door creaked when I pushed it open. The hallway inside was deserted, the lights humming faintly overhead. My footsteps echoed, too loud, too lonely. I reached the administrative office and lifted my hand to knock, but the door opened before I touched it. A woman, stern, tired, and visibly annoyed, looked me up and down. "You're Miss Carter?" she asked. "Yes," I breathed. "I'm here about a child you think is mine." Her expression softened slightly, but only slightly. "She's inside. She's been crying for you." The words hit me like a physical blow. My chest tightened. I swallowed hard and stepped through the doorway. And that was the moment my life split cleanly into 2 parts. Before I saw the child, and after. Because the little girl sitting there small, fragile, clutching a worn-out stuffed rabbit, had my eyes. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The little girl lifted her head slowly, as if even that small movement took effort. Her brown eyes big, glassy, trembling, locked onto mine. And something inside me cracked open. Not recognition, not certainty, but something disturbingly close. The administrator cleared her throat. "She hasn't eaten much. She kept asking when you were coming." My voice faltered. "I think there's been a mistake." The woman shot me a look sharp, tired, and laced with judgment. "Mistake or not, Miss Carter, she believes you're her mother." My stomach flipped. I knelt down cautiously, trying not to frighten the child. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm Evelyn." She blinked, clutching her stuffed rabbit tighter. "Mommy Evelyn?" she whispered. It felt like a punch to my ribs. "No, sweetie," I said softly, my throat tightening. I don't. God, why couldn't I form a sentence? The teacher placed a folder on the desk. "Maybe this will answer some of your questions." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were school forms, a birth certificate, emergency contact information, and my breath caught. A faded photo. Me, with my arm around someone I hadn't seen in 4 years. Ariana, my little sister. When she disappeared, she had been 22. Stubborn, bright-eyed, too trusting for her own good. She'd run off with a man I never liked. And just like that, she vanished. No calls. No social media. No trace. Seeing her face again felt like being stabbed with memory. The teacher spoke gently this time. She told us you were the only person she trusted. I stared at her. What do you mean she told you? Where is Ariana now? The teacher hesitated. Too long. Miss Carter, we haven't seen her for weeks. Lila has been picked up by different people, sometimes late, sometimes not at all. When no one came today, we thought— She swallowed. We thought you abandoned her. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I would never abandon a child. I snapped, louder than intended. The little girl flinched. I softened my tone immediately. Oh, honey, I'm not angry at you. I promise. She stared up at me. That same familiar gaze. The same way Ariana used to look at me when she was scared. It made my heart twist violently. I turned back to the teacher. Do you have her home address? Yes. But Miss Carter, it's in a very run-down area. Not safe after dark. I don't care. I grabbed the folder. Give it to me. The teacher hesitated, then wrote the address on a sticky note. I scooped Lila gently into my arms. She didn't resist, she simply rested her head on my shoulder as though she'd done it 1,000 times. That broke me more than anything. I'll take her home, I whispered. And I'll find my sister. As I walked out of the school, the cold air hit my face again, this time sharper, heavier, filled with dread. I strapped Lila into the back seat. Sweetheart, do you know where Mommy Ariana is? She hugged her rabbit and murmured, Mommy's sleeping. She's been sleeping a long time. My blood ran cold. I started the engine. Whatever waited at that address. I wasn't ready for it. But I had to go. The GPS led us across Seattle, farther and farther from anything familiar. The warm streetlights faded, replaced by flickering bulbs and cracked sidewalks. Abandoned cars. Graffiti, broken windows. Lila watched silently from the back seat, hugging her rabbit so tightly its ears bent out of shape. Is this your neighborhood, sweetheart? I asked quietly. She nodded once, small and scared. By the time I turned onto the final street, my hands were trembling on the steering wheel. The houses here weren't really houses, just sagging structures wrapped in rusted metal and peeling paint. Leela pointed with a tiny finger. That one. The porch light was broken. The door hung crooked on its hinges. Every instinct screamed for me to turn around. But Ariana might be inside, and I had already lost her once. I stepped out, lifted Lila into my arms, and pushed the door open. It didn't creak. It moaned, like the house itself was warning me to leave. The smell hit me first. Dampness, mold, rotten food, alcohol, a place where suffering had seeped into the walls. Mommy? Lila called softly. The timid echo broke my heart. I switched on my phone flashlight and moved deeper inside. Hello? I called. Ariana? It's Evelyn, are you here? No answer, just silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. I stepped into the living room and froze. My whole world tilted. Because there, lying on the floor beneath a collapsed shelf, was Ariana. Her body curled unnaturally, her skin pale, her lips bluish. Bruises, so many bruises covered her arms, her legs, even her neck. Ari, my voice cracked. Lila squirmed in my arms and scrambled down to her knees. She crawled to Ariana, shaking her mother's shoulder with trembling hands. Mommy, Mommy, wake up, I brought Mommy Evelyn. Mommy, wake up. Her cries were so small, so raw. I rushed forward, kneeling beside Ariana. My breath hitched, my hands shaking uncontrollably as I touched her neck. A faint pulse. Weak, fading. Ariana! I whispered through tears. Ari, it's me. I'm here. Oh God, what did they do to you? See, Lila sobbed harder. I looked around, broken glass everywhere. Overturned chairs, holes punched into the walls, the remnants of a violent storm that had lived inside this room for far too long. My stomach twisted. Grant, this had his fingerprints all over it. Ari, I choked out. I'm so sorry. I should have found you sooner. I scooped her into my arms. She was frighteningly light, like picking up a child, not a grown woman. Her head lolled against my shoulder. Lila grabbed my sleeve. Don't leave, Mommy. Don't let her sleep anymore. I'm not leaving her, I whispered fiercely. She's coming with us. Right now. I carried Ariana out of the house, Lila running beside me, sobbing. I laid Ariana across the back seat and wrapped my jacket around her, though she still felt icy under my touch. My heart hammered like it wanted to break out of my chest. I started the car and hit the gas. Eve? Lila whispered from the back, her voice trembling. Is Mommy Ari gonna die? I swallowed hard, too hard. No, sweetheart, I said, though my voice cracked. I won't let anything happen to her. As we tore through the night toward the nearest hospital, the truth, the horrifying truth, became clearer with each passing second. Ariana hadn't disappeared by choice. She hadn't run away. Someone had been hurting her. For a very long time. And now that I had found her again, I wasn't losing her. Not ever. The emergency doors slid open, the second I burst inside carrying Ariana in my arms. Nurses rushed toward us, their eyes widening at the sight of her limp, bruised body. Possible domestic violence case? One of them muttered. Get trauma room 3 ready, another shouted. They took her from me, laying her gently on a stretcher. For a moment I just stood there, arms empty, chest aching. A nurse touched my shoulder. Ma'am, we need space to work. Please wait outside. Please take care of her, I whispered. She's my voice failed. She's my sister. She nodded, softening. We'll do everything we can. I sat in the hallway holding Lila. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, unrelenting and cold. Lila's tiny body curled into mine, her fingers clutching my shirt. Mommy Evelyn? She whispered. Mommy, Ari hurts. She hurts a lot. I hugged her tight. I know, sweetheart. We're going to help her. Minutes turned into an hour each second, stretching like elastic pulled too far. Finally, a doctor approached us. His tired eyes told me everything before he even spoke. Miss Carter? I stood, heart pounding. How is she? She's stable. For now, he said carefully. But your sister is severely malnourished, dehydrated, and suffering from untreated injuries. We found multiple fractures, some old, some recent. My jaw clenched. Meaning she's been abused for a long time. He nodded. Yes. And without intervention tonight, she may not have survived the next 24 hours. A sharp breath left my lungs. Lila whimpered softly. Can we see Mommy Ari? She's still unconscious, the doctor replied gently. But one guardian may sit with her. I didn't hesitate. I'm going. The sight of Ariana hooked up to monitors nearly broke me. Her chest rose and fell weakly. Her skin looked too thin, too fragile, like she might shatter at a touch. I sat down beside her, taking her cold hand in mine. Ari, I whispered. I'm here. I found you. I'm not letting anything happen to you again. For a moment, she remained still. But then, her fingers twitched. She opened her eyes slowly, pain clouding every movement. Eve? Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, I said, tears flooding my eyes. You're safe. Ariana blinked lazily, confusion swimming behind her exhaustion. Then her gaze drifted to the little girl standing behind me. Lila? She breathed. Lila rushed to the bedside and grabbed Ariana's hand. Mommy, don't sleep anymore. Mommy, wake up. Ariana's lips trembled as she stroked Lila's cheek. I'm okay, baby. Mommy's okay. She wasn't, not even close, but she tried for her daughter. When the nurse left the room, Ariana turned to me. Tears welled in her eyes. Eve, I never wanted you to see me like this. Ari, I said, gripping her hand tighter. I should have looked for you harder. I should have never let you disappear. She shook her head weakly. No, I left because I didn't want you dragged into my mess. Mess? My voice cracked. Someone did this to you. Ariana closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her temple. Grant. Just one word. Heavy, poisonous. Lila flinched at the name and buried her face into Ariana's arm. Ariana continued, voice trembling. When I followed him, I thought he loved me. I thought running from home would make everything better. But the first time he hit me, I knew I made the biggest mistake of my life. She paused, breath shaky. He controlled everything. My phone, my money, who I talked to. Some nights, he wouldn't let me sleep. Other nights, Her voice broke too hard to finish. I squeezed her hand, tears spilling onto the sheets. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you come home? She sobbed. I tried. Eve, I swear I tried. But he threatened to hurt you. He said he'd find you, kill anyone who tried to help me. I was so scared, and when I got pregnant, I thought leaving him would make things worse. Ari, I whispered, devastated. After Lila was born, she said, I put your name on everything, school, clinic forms, just in case something happened to me. I wanted someone good to find her. Someone kind. Someone who wouldn't let her grow up alone. I covered my mouth, trying not to sob out loud. So this is why the school called me, I murmured. Because you trusted me with her. Ariana nodded, eyes pleading. Please, don't let him take her. Don't let Grant find us again. I leaned forward and hugged her as gently as I could. I won't, I vowed. I'm not losing you again. And I swear on everything I will protect Lila with my life. Ariana's tears soaked my shoulder. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't the end of the nightmare. It was only the beginning of the fight. Ariana stayed in the hospital for 3 more days. Each hour she grew stronger, though the bruises on her skin deepened into sickening shades of purple and blue. I stayed by her side the whole time. Lila slept curled against me on the plastic chair, her breath soft but restless, as if nightmares hovered right above her. On the 4th evening, doctors finally cleared Ariana to be discharged. I drove us home my home because there was no universe in which I would take her back to that collapsing house. Not after what she'd been through. Not after what I'd seen in her eyes each time she whispered Grant's name. In my apartment, Ariana shuffled through the doorway cautiously, as if she expected Grant to jump out of the shadows. It's okay, I said, touching her shoulder. You're safe here. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe safety existed anymore. The first 2 days were quiet. Ariana slept a lot, recovering slowly. Lila colored pictures at the kitchen table and followed me everywhere I went. I cooked soup, made tea, washed Ariana's hair, wrapped her in blankets. For a moment, just a moment, I let myself believe things might finally settle. That was when everything crashed. It was raining that night, heavy and cold, bouncing off the metal railing outside like angry fingers. I was setting the table when a sound exploded through the apartment. Bang, 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 Lila screamed. Ariana turned ghost white, grabbing the wall to stay upright. My heart stopped. I knew that voice before I even heard the words. Evelyn, open this damn door. Grant. Every bone in my body went rigid. Ariana covered her mouth, shaking violently. Eve? He found us. Oh God, he found us. I pressed a finger to my lips. Take Lila to the bedroom. Now. Lock the door. Send me, but... Go, Ari. She grabbed Lila and disappeared down the hall just as Grant slammed his fist against the wood again. I know she's in there. Open up. I swallowed the fear clawing its way up my throat. I wasn't strong like Ariana. I wasn't brave like the heroes in movies. But right now, I had no choice. I stepped toward the door. Grant, leave us alone. Ariana doesn't want to see you. His voice shifted dangerously low. She's my woman, Evelyn. And Lila is my daughter. You think you can hide them from me? Anger rose like fire inside me. She's not your property, I snapped. And you lost every right to that child the moment you put your hands on her mother. He laughed a cold, unhinged sound. Open the door, or I'll kick it down. I grabbed my phone. If you touch this door, I swear I'll call the police. Silence. For a few seconds, the only sound was the rain hammering the metal gutters. Then, smosh! Grant kicked the lower panel of the door so hard it cracked. Ariana screamed from the bedroom. My heart exploded with rage. That's it, I'm calling 911, he shouted back. Go ahead. Police can't protect you forever. I'll get my family back one way or another. And then, suddenly, he ran. I heard his boots pounding down the stairwell, echoing through the building until disappearing completely. I rushed to the bedroom. Ariana was curled around Lila, crying silently, her entire body trembling. He knows where we live, she whispered. He won't stop until he gets us. I sat beside her, pulling both of them close. We're not running, I said, voice low but firm. We're done running. Hasn't eaten and turned. Ariana stared at me with hollow eyes. How? He'll kill me. He'll kill you. Not if we get to him first, I said. Legally. What do you mean? I lifted my phone. We gather everything. Every bruise, every witness, every medical record, every message. We expose him. We take this to the police and then to court. Ariana shook her head, terrified. Eve, Grant always finds a way. He twists things. He lies. He hurts people. He won't hurt you anymore, I vowed. I'm going to make sure of it. I held her as she cried into my shoulder, and in that moment, With the rain pounding outside and fear gripping the walls, I made a silent promise. Grant Mitchell had started this war, but I would finish it. The next morning, I woke before the sun, a tight knot of anger and purpose pulsing in my chest. I had never built a legal case before. I had never confronted a violent man. I had never fought for someone else's life. But for Ariana, and for Lila, I would learn. I found Ariana sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a mug of untouched tea. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but beneath the fear, there was something else, a flicker of resolve. "He won't stop, Eve," she whispered. "He'll come back until he destroys everything." "Then, we're not giving him the chance," I said. "We're collecting evidence today." Ariana's fingers trembled. "You really think we can win?" I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I know. We left Lila with my trusted neighbor, Mrs. Green, an older woman who adored her immediately. Then we drove back to Ariana's old neighborhood, the place she'd been suffering in silently for years. The moment we turned onto the street, Ariana's breathing hitched. She clutched her seatbelt with white knuckles. "Hey," I said gently. "We're just talking to people. I'm right here." She nodded shakily. When we reached the crumbling house, Ariana couldn't bring herself to go inside again, so I walked in alone. The smell of mildew and despair clung to the walls like a stain. The broken furniture, the shattered glass, the overturned table, it all painted a horrifying portrait of a woman fighting to survive in a place where no one should ever have to live. I took pictures of everything. Every bruise-colored memory. Every sign of violence. When I returned outside, Ariana was speaking with a woman next door, an elderly neighbor with thinning white hair and sorrowful eyes. "This is Mrs. Lawson," Ariana introduced quietly. She helped me once." Mrs. Lawson grabbed my hand. "You get that girl away from that monster," she said fiercely. "I've heard her scream. I've seen her crawl out of the house bloody. I called the police once, but he threatened me if I ever tried again." My stomach twisted. "Will you give a statement?" I asked gently. Her voice didn't waver. "I'll do more than that. I'll testify in court." Ariana broke down, hugging the woman as tears streamed down both their faces. As we moved down the street, others hesitated at first, peeking from behind cracked doors. But when I explained what we were doing, something unexpected happened. People stepped forward. "Mr. Hanley, a plumber, admitted. I've seen him drag her by the hair into the house. I heard things being thrown. I just didn't know how to help." A teenage boy added, "That little girl, Lila? She used to hide behind my mom when he yelled. Mommy said hide when Daddy is angry. We didn't know what to do." Ariana stood silently, tears rolling down her cheeks with every story, some she remembered, some she had blocked out. For each account, I recorded audio on my phone, took notes, collected signatures. Piece by piece, Grant's facade began to crumble. Our final stop was the small community clinic where Ariana had once gone for checkups. The receptionist recognized her immediately, her expression turning sympathetic the moment she saw Ariana's bruises. Within minutes, the attending doctor, Dr. Morales, pulled her aside. "I knew something was wrong all those years ago," he confessed. "You always made excuses that didn't fit your injuries." Ariana lowered her eyes. "I was afraid." He handed us a thick envelope. "These are copies of your old medical records, documented injuries that were suspicious at the time. If you're pursuing legal action, these will help." I held the envelope with both hands. This wasn't just paper. This was Ariana's suffering, preserved in ink. This was proof. When we returned to the car, Ariana sank into the passenger seat, holding the envelope to her chest. "I didn't think anyone saw me," she whispered. "I thought I was invisible." "You weren't invisible," I said softly. "You were abandoned by everyone who should have protected you. But that ends now." She wiped her tears. "So what's next?" I started the engine. "We take everything to the police. We file charges. We make sure Grant can never touch you or Lila again." Ariana exhaled shakily. "Eve, if we do this, he'll come after us." I looked her in the eyes. "Then he'll lose. Because now you're not alone. And I'm not afraid of him." Her face broke into the smallest, most fragile smile. And for the first time since finding her on that cold floor, I felt hope. Real, burning, unstoppable hope. The morning of the hearing arrived heavy with cold air and sleepless nerves. Ariana stood beside me at the courthouse steps, hands trembling despite my grip. She wore a simple blouse, long sleeves pulled down to hide the fading bruises. Lila clung to her other side, holding her rabbit tight. "You don't have to speak if you can't," I whispered. Ariana shook her head. "No, I need to. I've stayed silent for too long." Inside, whispers flooded the hallway, neighbors, reporters, strangers drawn to the case of a woman who had escaped a monster. But the moment Grant appeared at the end of the corridor, everything froze. Clean shirt, groomed hair, but his eyes? Still full of the same venom I remembered at my front door. His lawyer tugged him forward, but Grant stared directly at us, jaw tight. Ariana instinctively stepped behind me. I stared him down. Not this time. Not ever again. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. Papers rustled, pens clicked. My heart hammered the way it did when I found Ariana on that filthy floor. The prosecutor rose first. "Your Honor, this is a case of prolonged domestic violence, coercion, attempted child endangerment, and repeated threats to the victims' lives. The evidence will show a pattern of cruelty spanning years. It is not minute. I have still so man." Grant's lawyer immediately objected. "Exaggeration. My client is a hardworking man whose partner fabricated these injuries to gain custody." "Custody?" I snapped before I could stop myself. The judge lifted a stern brow. "Miss Carter, you'll have your turn." I swallowed hard, nodding. Ariana's hand found mine under the table. She was trembling. The prosecutor projected photos of Ariana's injuries onto the courtroom monitor. Bruises across her ribs, finger-shaped marks on her arms, a healed fracture in her wrist. Medical records describing unexplained trauma. Each image felt like a punch. A juror gasped softly when they saw the photo of Ariana on the hospital stretcher, barely conscious, eyes swollen shut. Then came the witness statements. Mrs. Lawson stepped to the stand. "I saw him throw her against the wall. I heard her scream. I called the police once, but he came to my house the next night and said he'd burn it down if I ever interfered again." She shook as she spoke. I wanted to hug her. Then Mr. Hanley. "I saw her crawling out of the house once. Crawling. Like she was trying to escape." His voice cracked. "I did nothing. I regret that more than anything." Grant folded his arms, jaw grinding. When Grant was called up, he swaggered to the stand like he owned the courtroom. The prosecutor asked, "Mr. Mitchell, how do you explain the injuries documented over 4 years?" Grant scoffed. "She's dramatic. She's always been dramatic. She trips a lot, falls, bruises easy." Murmurs rippled across the courtroom. "And the threats you sent via text message?" Grant leaned into the microphone. "People say things they don't mean when they're angry. What about the night you kicked Miss Carter's door, screaming that you would kill them?" Grant smirked. "Just trying to get my family back." Ariana flinched at the word family. The prosecutor stepped closer. "So you admit Lila was in danger the day you broke into their apartment?" Grant's eyes snapped. "I would never hurt my daughter. Yet you hurt her mother," the prosecutor said quietly. Repeatedly. Grant opened his mouth, but no sound came out. That silence was louder than any scream. When the judge called Ariana to the stand, she nearly buckled. I walked her to the witness chair. Her hands shook as she swore to tell the truth. She looked at Grant. He stared back, cold and merciless. But then something inside her shifted. She lifted her chin. Her voice, soft, broken, still carried through the room. "Grant hurt me. Many times. I stopped counting. I stayed because I thought leaving would make it worse. I thought, if I stayed quiet, he'd calm down someday." A tear slid down her cheek. But he never calmed down. Not once. And when he started yelling near Lila, when she began hiding behind furniture just to avoid his footsteps, I knew we weren't safe. Grant slammed a fist onto the table. "You liar." The bailiff rushed toward him. The judge pounded his gavel. "Mr. Mitchell, one more outburst and you will be held in contempt." Ariana's voice quivered, but she continued. "The day Evelyn found me, I thought I was going to die there. I thought Lila would find me dead." Her voice broke, sobs choking her. I closed my eyes, fighting tears. "I don't want revenge," she whispered. "I just want to stop being afraid." When the judge returned from deliberation, the entire courtroom held its breath. Grant stared ahead, lips pressed thin. Ariana squeezed my hand so tightly her knuckles paled. The judge read the verdict slowly, clearly. "On all counts, domestic violence, coercion, threats, and child endangerment, this court finds the defendant, Grant Mitchell, guilty." The air shattered. Ariana gasped. Lila whimpered softly against my chest. Grant exploded. You set me up. You all set me up. Two officers grabbed him by the arms, pinning him as he thrashed and screamed. His voice echoed off every wall. I'll get you for this, Evelyn. I'll find you. Remove him! The judge barked. The doors slammed behind him. Silence followed. Deep, overwhelming silence. Ariana covered her face with both hands and sobbed, relief pouring out like a flood. I wrapped my arm around her. It's over, I whispered. We won. For the first time in 4 years, she breathed without fear. And as we stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, Lila holding both our hands, I understood. This wasn't victory. This was rebirth. The weeks after the trial felt surreal, quiet in a way I didn't recognize at first. No fists pounding on doors. No whispered fears. No waking up in the middle of the night to check if the locks were still latched. Just peace. Ariana often sat by the living room window, watching the rain trail down the glass. At first she looked lost, as though her mind was still trapped behind old walls. But slowly, day by day, her breaths came easier. Her shoulders relaxed. Her eyes softened. One afternoon, as I cooked dinner, she approached me hesitantly. Eve? I turned. She was holding a pair of scissors and a small trash bag. I think, she said quietly, I'm ready to cut away the last pieces of him. She pulled a clump of her long, tangled hair forward, locks that Grant once yanked, pulled, threatened her with. The symbol of everything she endured. Are you sure? I asked gently. Ariana nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Yes, I want a new start, a new version of me. I guided her to a chair, gently combed through her hair, and began trimming away the broken pieces. Strands fell softly into her laplight, freeing, like weights sliding off her shoulders. When I finished, Ariana looked at herself in the mirror and gasped, not in sadness, not in shock, but in awe. I look like, she swallowed. I look like someone who survived. I hugged her from behind, resting my chin on her shoulder. You don't just look like someone who survived, I said softly. You look like someone who's finally living again. The changes in Lila were even more beautiful. At first, she walked softly, always tiptoeing, always checking if Ariana was in sight. But soon, the shadows faded. Every morning, she ran into the kitchen shouting, "Pancakes, Mommy Eve?" Then she'd jump into Ariana's lap for her morning hug. One evening, I found her drawing pictures on the living room floor. 3 stick figures. One labeled Mommy Ari, another labeled me, and the last one, with slightly larger hair and a crooked smile, labeled Mommy Eve. I think I've renowned it. My heart melted. Why 2 mommies? I teased gently. Lila looked up, smiling as naturally as breathing. Because you save us. Mommy Ari love me. Mommy Eve protect me. So I have both. Ariana's hand covered her mouth as she tried not to cry. That drawing stayed on our fridge from that night on. 6 months later, my small apartment suddenly felt too cramped, but for once, in a good way. Not from fear. Not from chaos. But from life. I saved enough from my job at the auto shop and part-time mechanic work to move us to a small rental house. It wasn't fancy, but it had a tiny backyard, a real kitchen, a safe neighborhood, and a bedroom for Lila painted in a soft pastel yellow she chose herself. When we moved in, she twirled around the empty living room and shouted, "This is our house? No bad people, no yelling." Ariana and I exchanged a look, half laughter, half tears. We made it, I whispered. Ariana squeezed my hand. Yes, because of you. One evening, after putting Lila to bed, Ariana and I sat on the back porch. The sun had dipped low, painting the yard with gentle orange light. Ariana exhaled deeply. Eve. When I left 4 years ago, I thought I was choosing freedom, but I ended up in a prison I couldn't escape. I thought I didn't deserve to come back. I thought you'd be ashamed of me. Ashamed? I whispered. Ari, I'm only ashamed that I didn't find you sooner. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You saved me, she murmured. You saved us. No, I said gently. You survived long enough for me to reach you. You're the strongest person I know. Ariana laughed through her tears. I'm getting stronger. I want to work again. I want Lila to grow up happy. I want to live without fear. You will, I promised. And I'll be beside you every step. Later that night, I checked on Lila. She slept curled around her stuffed rabbit, breathing soft and even safe at last. I stood in the doorway, realizing something that made my chest tighten. That phone call, the one that claimed I had a daughter, was the single most terrifying moment of my life, but it led me here. To Ariana. To Lila. To a family I never expected to have. I smiled softly. Tomorrow would bring school runs, work shifts, meals to cook, stories to read, and 1,000 little things I never knew I wanted. A normal life. A peaceful life. A life rebuilt from the ashes of a nightmare. And for the first time in years, I felt hope settling into my bones. Warm, steady, real. We weren't just survivors anymore. We were home.